Hello, everyone. This is Hugh from Film Hub, without my partner in crime, Sarah, this time, I'm afraid to say. But I am up in Derry, Londonderry, Stroke City today at the wonderful Nerve Centre, and I'm with Eavan and Christopher. Do you want to tell us what you do here at the Nerve Centre?
I'm the programmer for the Nerve Centre Cinema, which is its all year round programme, and the Foyle Film Festival, which runs in late November.
Lovely, lovely. Eavan?
As you said, I'm Eavan, and I am the head of film programmes here at the Nerve Centre, and I look after a range of film education and exhibition programmes here, and I also manage the competition and the industry programmes for Foyle Film Festival. So we deliver a range of Oscar and BAFTA accredited short film competitions, and then a dedicated industry programme as part of Foyle.
Your business card must be very big.
Somewhere it's in the wallet, somewhere.
Well, it's really a pleasure to be up in the Nerve Centre as always. It's a long history and heritage of cinema in Derry, and sort of flying the flag for cinema in Derry as well. Can you give us a quick potted history of kind of how it's developed in the Nerve Centre in terms of cinema and stuff?
Well, I mean, really, in terms of cinema, there's always been a really rich tradition of cinema in Derry, Londonderry, with classic cinemas like the Ritz and all those different spaces here over the years. Foyle Film Festival started in 1987 in Derry, which was started by a collective of filmmakers such as Margot Harkin, Ulster University was involved in there, Anne Crowley, all those people that were filmmakers and that weren't seeing films from here or themselves represented on the screen, that wanted to bring high quality film to the city because there was such a kind of a captured audience here for it, but also wanted to talk about the issues of the day and talk about the politics, the climate, the social justice issues, and showcase their own work as well. So Foyle very much started in 1987 as that kind of grassroots kind of movement around cinema from here, about here as well. And when the Nerve Centre came into being then in 1990, initially from a couple of very, very small practice rooms, it very naturally came together to kind of be a space for the youth culture of the city. There's always been a really vibrant young population. Derry has one of the largest populations under 25 in the UK as well. So there's always been this big vibrant kind of culture for young people,
and an energy,
energy as well, and the can-do attitude, because again, it's coming from spaces where if you don't have a lot of resource or time or anything like that as well, you really do make sure that you get up and you make it and you do it for yourself. So it was that grassroots filmmaking, grassroots screenings, a lot of energy from youth culture, which became the Nerve Centre, and Foyle eventually became homed in the Nerve Centre, and the Nerve Centre's cinema programme really, there was a lot of really great training initiatives kind of in the 90s that really started to bring people, bring the skills back to the city. So people were trained as cinema programmers, as technicians, as filmmakers, as musicians. So that really we had a kind of a space here that people were able to DIY, put on their own events, range of events, make their own films, make their own content,
and that kind of ecosystem.
That ecosystem, and really that has not changed over 30 odd years. That ecosystem is still here, that we're self-sufficient, self-motivated and driven, kind of really to set the content, create the content, and set the conversation around that content, about here and about our place on a wider, more global stage. That was really aspirational, wasn't it? But that's kind of true.
It was very, very moving.
Thanks very much.
Let me just check that. Yeah, okay, we're going.
It's mostly from a technological perspective that we've had to change the most over the years, in terms of where industry standard becomes another format. For example, at the minute it's DCP, and we've had that for about 18 months, and that allows us to show titles basically at the point of release, and that's been another difference. But that's basically, like Eavan says, the sort of the mission of the Nerve Centre Cinema and Foyle has stayed consistent, and it's mostly from a technological basis then that you have to sort of adapt more in terms of...
That's a really interesting way of putting it, actually, just in terms of,
obviously, and Eavan says there about people who were sort of trained up and then ended up going on to work in Nerve Centre Foyle, and one of those people was our predecessor, Bernie McLaughlin.
Yeah, that's right.
26 years, and a lot of what Nerve Centre Cinema and Foyle is now is
she was the bedrock really for
Yeah, she did tremendous work.
So like when she started, it would have been the massive 35mm prints with these massive boxes, and then it moved to sort of smaller DCP, but they were still coming physically, so you would have had to get couriers to get it. But then over the last couple of years, that's developed again mostly accelerated through COVID with the fact that everything's sent digitally via
Transfer.
DCP
Yeah,
now.
okay.
So
I think that's a really good point in terms of, it does make it easy, but people need to know what the technology is, and it costs money when it initially comes out as well. So it is always that kind of issue with fundraising and stuff like that. But obviously, having that DCP on the site in Nerve Centre now has really opened up in terms of programming and things like that. I mean, we're here just the day before the start of Real Lives.
yeah.
Now, Real Lives has been going for quite a long time in a slightly different guise, is that right?
Previously, it would have been called Foyle Film Festival, Intercultural and Anti-Racism Festival.
That's
and
right.
Last year it was just rebranded slightly to Foyle Film Festival Presents Real Lives. This is like the second version of the rebranded, but essentially the mission statement is very similar to what it has always been.
Yeah, okay. And what is that mission statement for Real Lives?
It's basically a program that aims to sort of highlight voices, alternative voices, or those that aren't necessarily highlighted often within cinema, to sort of highlight a number of different themes, whether that's prejudice or various different issues within films. So the program is mostly directly sort of aimed at presenting those voices and giving them a sort of platform within the program.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, and I mean, our audience really, we have a remit here and a belief and an ethos of really trying to welcome and engage EDI audiences, so audiences from any background, from any perspective, should feel welcome in our venue. We want to be actively engaging with all those different voices as well. So we'll have a range of LGBTQ+, we'll have diversity, we'll have seasons and themes that will focus on disability, on archive as well, and it's really about opening up that we're a city centre venue here. We are in one of the most disadvantaged areas in the UK as well, and the Nerve Centre, through all its work, through its outreach work, through Foyle and the cinema, we've always worked with marginalised and diverse groups, very much believing in that cinema should be reasonably priced, accessible,
it's a democratic
for
art form,
everybody.
absolutely,
It's an absolutely
okay.
democratic art form, and very much a core belief of Nerve. So that coming together with this particular season works really, really well, and we're really heartened by the energy and the dynamism that the DCP has been able to give to the programme. It's really driven, what Christopher can do here as well, and support from yourselves. Because,
and this sort of all year round.
Yeah, so it's a year round cinema programme that we have now, and we have the Real Life season, the EDI season in April, May time. We'll have the season leading up to Foyle. We'll have a lovely Christmas season, family screenings. We'll have Halloween. We'll have our summer programme, and we engage as many groups as we can, the wider groups that use the Nerve Centre, because a young person might come in here into the Nerve Centre and start in a music programme. They may go on to an animation programme. They may join BFI Film Academy. They may start to join our young programmers groups. So really we have a wide audience of engaged young people that want to be involved after their initial contact, that want to feel the centre is for them, and that should apply to everybody.
Amazing. I first came up here in 93, I think, or something, for a gig. And I've always been struck by the energy. I mean, when I first started sort of properly formally working with the Nerve Centre, I remember just coming up here and just feeling the kind of energy and awareness and the kind of opportunity that a venue like this brings to. And so, obviously having cinema at the heart of that is really interesting, because it opens up so many different lives. And we talk about the empathy machine and all that sort of stuff. Well, really, the programme that you've put together, Christopher, really is fascinating in terms of the kind of voices within that. Irish voices, international voices, that sort of stuff. I mean, can you talk us through the programme in terms of, do you have any kind of great highlights that you like?
So there's a couple of preview screenings. We open with preview screening of The Teacher's Lounge, which is a German film that was nominated for an Oscar.
That's right. It's a very, even the trailer is intense. So,
the main image is sort of like the lead, sort of like screaming. So we have that on Wednesday. It's released on Friday.
Great.
And then another preview screen which we have, which is actually almost sold out, is That They May Face the Rising Sun.
Gorgeous.
Closing film at Dublin. So we have that on the 16th, which is next Tuesday.
Okay.
And it's released on the 25th. So we have it about a week, 10 days before it comes out.
And our audiences responded to those preview screenings and stuff?
Well,
they're really interested in it,
Generally, when we have preview screenings, for example, last year's Foyle Film Festival, we had sort of 8 preview screenings. That was a significant sort of increase from the previous year. And on that occasion, the audience is really engaged with that ability to be able to see these films before they come out on general release. And we're seeing the same sort of thing in terms of numbers for these 2 preview screenings and a lot of the other screenings, that people really engage with the opportunity to be able to see films before they come out. And then obviously if engage with them, then they'll go and see them when they actually come out theatrically as well. Because both with this programme and also with the Nerve Centre year-round programme, which we screen on Wednesdays and Thursdays, it's partially because previously, certainly before we had the DCP, audiences would not have had the opportunity to see these films locally. They would have had to travel either to Letterkenny, which is about an hour away, or to QFT in Belfast, which is about 2 hours away. So it's that opportunity, because like the larger cinemas, they only have so many screens, so there's certain films that they can't show. So it's to give people the accessibility to actually be able to see these films pretty close to release, or in these instances ahead of release locally, without having to travel like an hour or 2 hours away.
Well, it's great. I mean, the Northeast is, is so engaged in terms of arts and creativity and those kind of things. It is tremendous to have those available to watch collectively as well.
So then also we have, for the last 2 Foyle Film Festivals, we've done a couple of events with the Northern Ireland Screens Digital Film Archive.
Oh yeah.
And we have another event as part of Relives, which is sort of showcasing those shorts made by community groups. That one, again, is almost, there's only a couple of places left on that as well.
Yeah.
So it's both to showcase the inclusions that are already in the Digital Film Archive, but as part of the Northern Ireland Now, which is a project from one of our colleagues at the Nerve Centre, Elspeth Fisher. It's about promoting the ability to sort of like include more diverse sort of inclusions towards the film archive.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like a showcase of what's already there in terms of how it reflects the local community, but then also sort of emphasising the importance of receiving sort of inclusions.
Yeah,
so there's a post-screening discussion afterwards as part of that.
You're screening a wonderful little film called Crossing Lines, which has a local interest, obviously, in terms of the border and women's football and all that sort of stuff.
I think that was one of the real Borders films we had.
Right,
That's
right.
Yeah. It's, I mean, and it's a fascinating story, and using film to tell it is a great boon. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes down.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Those type of events are usually they're very engaged from the local community.
Absolutely. It goes back to that, seeing stories and perspectives from your own area, from your own experience, and even not from your own experience on screen, but in a local context as well, can really help.
I think it's a universal story, and just that whole story about kind of crossing the border during the Troubles and all, what that was like. And I think we saw during the Brexit debates that large amounts of people don't kind of get it. They just don't get it at all. So you've also got partners, and is it a new Oscar Bright? You're working with the film festival, which is that a new partnership?
That's a new partnership.
Great.
Yeah. So I had connected with them earlier on, in the middle of last year actually as well. And again, they do really fantastic work with neurodivergent filmmakers, and to be able to showcase content, discuss that content, and make it a part of our program is really important to us as well, because again, so often we're asking people from different backgrounds and different experiences to fit with a model of programming, whereas there is really something for everybody in this program as well. But Oscar Bright do great work. So they are
fantastic, unsung and brilliant.
Yeah,
really,
really magnificent work, and we're just privileged to be able to work with them to screen, and hopefully it's the first of many partnerships as well that we can. And again, it'll be different for us. It's the first time that we're doing this as well. But the important thing is that people should come away inspired. They should come away with new ideas, with a sense of that's something I can do. That's an idea I can take back to my classroom or my youth group, or something I can go and make myself. That's as much a part of it as enjoying those stories on the big screen, but feeling motivated and driven to get engaged, stay engaged, keep that conversation going as a creative individual as well.
It's interesting stuff.
So it's a strand from their program that we'll be screening. It's a couple of short films. I think there's 9 short films as part of the strand. It's Queer Freedom is the strand that we'll be screening basically from their program.
Okay.
So like Eavan said, hopefully it's the first of like a couple, and
will be.
Yeah. And do you have a closing film? Is there a specific closing film?
Our closing film, our final event, will
be
one of the cinematic breakfast screenings.
Oh, great! Okay.
So those are.
Tell us about the cinematic breakfast.
So, because Bernie would have started this maybe 2015, I think.
Yeah.
The Breakfast at Tiffany's was the first sort of film that she had the idea of.
Hence the name.
And it's the idea that people get to go and see a classic film, but then before the screening they get a croissant and a tea and coffee. And audiences are really engaged with that screening format. Like over the last couple of years, we've had like sold out screenings of films like The Quiet Man, Charade, those kind of films.
It's kind of twist on the silver screeners model, which is really interesting.
It is. When Bernie had started, I was talking to her about it funny recently, and she said one of the things she loved most about programming was creating that sense of conversation before and after, that people from anywhere can be just together in a room. They'll have that one experience. They'll have time for a cup of coffee to talk about the film. And she's a huge classic film buff, let's not lie. All these beautiful classic films that she loves to see. But it's been a huge success. We had some beautiful footage from Foyle Film Festival, and feedback around people mixing with people that perhaps had dementia, or people that wouldn't normally even come here to the cinema, but they were able to tell some other members of the audiences about the big stars of the day and why they loved them and what. And there was just this like tiny little pocket of kind of social history in there, in that small exchange. But someone felt touched enough by it, they wrote it in their evaluation back to us, and I loved it, because it just, that's exactly what it should create as well. So from that perspective, they've been a brilliant success as well, and there's always a really good programme too and a regular attendance. And then we've got In the Shadow of Beirut as well, which I did want to mention, with Brenton Byrne, because that is a documentary that was directed by Donegal man and fellow Ballyshannon, Gary Keane.
Yes, that's right.
Brenton Byrne is a producer that has worked here with the Nerve Centre over the years, but his career has been stunning as a documentary maker. And
there's two of his films.
He's got two of his films in the festival.
He's been involved in That They May Face the Rising Sun. He's In the Shadow of Beirut is an absolutely beautiful piece of work.
Submission for the Oscars this year.
Absolutely, and I mean, he's going to be in conversation here because, again, we do try and put some level of industry programme in a lot of what we can do, and regularly we have a small but very committed and engaged audience of filmmakers here as well. But that is one for the filmmakers, that's one for the documentary enthusiasts
long career,
as well. Fabulous career.
The ups and downs of how it all goes. And,
absolutely. So he's going to be in conversation with John Petto here after the screening on Tuesday the 23rd of April at 7 p.m. And tickets are available. But I mean, I think it's a nice range, and I just always try to bring some industry element back into it as well, to keep that conversation around filmmaking going and storytelling and story making going.
Audiences, even if you're not a filmmaker, you're still interested in why people have made things. You're still interested in the kind of processes, or the question I always get asked here is how long do things take? How long did it take you to make the film is like always an audience question every time whenever we throw it out into the audience and things like that. It's very strange.
And it's never the
question I would never ask.
It's never the 9 to 12 months you sit out and fund an application, is it?
No, I don't think so.
Longer.
It's always like, I started this when I was 16 and now I'm 50.
There's a wrangle over visas or IP or whatever it is as well.
Or somebody steals the master tapes and things like that.
But you know what it is though, is that, it is so hard to make a film. It is so hard to make a film, and the labour of love and the tenacity and commitment and the drive that these people have to go, and for this one to go out working in Beirut, having come from even Gary having come from doing the Gaza film as well. These people are not kind of half in and half out. It's their whole life, and that's what drives them as storytellers, and why to do that as well. I think is such an interesting. It's a great conversation. It's one that you are privileged to have yourself when you're hosting the Q&A.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and it really opens it up. And also just in a nuts and bolts sense, if you do add what they call an enhanced factor to a screening, then you're going to add 10 ticket sales. Because people will go and hear a filmmaker speak as much as anyone else. I think it's great.
You do an interview with your reputation precedes you.
Very much doubt that, Eavan, but anyway. Well, look, it's been fascinating to hear about Real Lives. Really looking forward to hearing how it goes and all that sort of stuff. Foyle, do you have dates for Foyle yet this year? Have you not put them down? You do?
Foyle this year, but the 22nd of November. So Friday the 22nd of November to
1st of December.
Sunday the 1st of December.
It's great stuff. Well, that's something to look forward to, and I'll maybe come up the road and interview about that whenever it happens. And I'll bring Sarah with me next time, obviously.
But that work starts even now. The competitions have opened last week, so already we're underway with submissions and viewing and all of that. So it's the never-ending juggernaut that keeps on giving.
Absolutely.
Well, at this point of the year, you have your list of films, but then they can quite often sort of like whittle down very quickly. Just for example, there's been films we've had on the list for a while, but then they come out before the festival.
Yeah,
so that's just
there's not much you can do about that.
Part and parcel, but to have the capacity there, as you say, to be able to screen it as well. So
well, it's great. Both the screenings of the films, but also how close and aware you are of your audiences. So thank you very much, both of you, for your time.
thank you
All right,
very
thanks.
much for chatting with us.